Deputy Speaker, and I'm pleased to rise to speak on the Appropriations Bill, a bill which reflects on the contributions of the Albanese government in taking action on climate change and beginning to make some of the much-needed investments into housing, into recognising the importance of fixing up parts of our education system that aren't working as well as they can be, and tackles the issue of climate change. A budget which deals with some of the rorts and mismanagement that have been locked in under 9 lost years of coalition government. A budget which makes an investment in Australians' future. So I want to talk about much of that, but I want to anchor it in the aspirations, interests and commitments of some young Canberrans. And I want to do so through an interesting initiative, the Raise Our Voice Australia initiative. Raise Our Voice is a volunteer-run organisation that seeks to amplify diverse, young, female, trans and non-binary voices to actively lead conversations in politics, domestic and foreign policy. They have asked me to amplify the voices of young people from Fenner by reading their words in this parliament. So I'm going to begin my speech today with speeches from 4 young Australians, beginning with Amelie Toogood, 9 years old. Amelie says as follows, quote, "I'm Amelie Toogood, aged 9, from the electorate of Fenner in the ACT. I would like the new Parliament of Australia to pay more notice to leptospirosis, a deadly disease that makes many dogs sick every year. Dogs catch leptospirosis by playing in and drinking infected water. It is currently prevalent in the ACT as well as in New South Wales and Queensland. As of the 30th of June this year, 38 dogs are known to have contracted leptospirosis in Canberra, with 27 of them, 71%, having died or had to be euthanised." Amelie goes on, "I moved to Canberra in January this year, and last month my dog moved from Cairns to Canberra to live with me. Since my dog Jasmine moved to Canberra, I've been very worried about her. I'm worried because of all of the rain increasing the chance of her catching leptospirosis. Leptospirosis is found throughout Australia, but was only recently prevalent in Canberra. As leptospirosis is only new in Canberra, many people don't know about it, don't know the symptoms and don't know how to keep dogs safe. I call upon the new Parliament of Australia to provide greater information to the people of this great nation about and to fund more research into leptospirosis. This information and research will help protect the approximately 5.5 million pet dogs that are loved by families across this country." The second speech comes from Elsie Toogood, age 11. She begins, "I'm Elsie Toogood, age 11, and I live in the electorate of Fenner in the ACT. I want the new Parliament to have courage not unlike activists. Women's rights activists such as Malala Yousafzai, who fought for girls' rights to go to school in Pakistan, and Anne Roiphe, the first-generation feminist and author of Up the Sandbox. Education activists such as Julia Gillard, Australia's first female Prime Minister, who has devoted herself to educational equality. She is now chair of the board of the Global Partnership for Education. Racial equality activists are also an important factor in the world of activists. One of the first black activists was Philip Randolph, who was a Labor leader and civil rights activist who founded the BSCP, the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, the US nation's first major labour union. Elsie goes on, "These people were brave and stood up for what they thought was right. Though they all fought for different things, they all had one thing in common: courage. They would bounce back from challenges and defend their thoughts and beliefs. They all inspire me very much, though all in different ways, and I would love to meet any one of them. In summary, I think activists are some of the most brave and courageous people I can think of, and I want to be just like them one day. I want to have the courage to do what is right in the world, and I hope that the new Parliament has the courage to use their power for gender equality, racial equality and equal educational outcomes for all children in Australia." The third speech comes from Isabella Gooding, aged 15. She says, quote, "A successful future for Australia is one that improves on the advocacy for human rights. My name is Isabella Gooding. I am 15 years old and I live in Canberra. When I became an Australian citizen in 2020, I was taught about the values of mateship and egalitarianism. When applied, these principles build a fair and cohesive society. We must recognise the fact that these principles are not sufficiently afforded to marginalised groups in our nation. There is significant underrepresentation of refugees, First Nations people and other minorities. Integration of diversity should be a natural part of Australian culture. Isabella goes on, quote, "To bridge the indisputable gap, I propose that an opportunity is presented for marginalised groups to have their voices heard through the Australian Parliament. The Raise Our Voices program provides an opportunity to bring representation of young, diverse perspectives. I believe that Parliament should consider engaging in similar processes to hear from other sectors of society that lack substantial representation in the seat of power. The purpose of democracy is to give everyone an equal voice. This can only be achieved through greater acknowledgement of minorities. In hearing diverse voices, we open a pathway to empathy. At the end of the day, parliamentarian or socially disadvantaged person, we're all human. I aspire to see an Australia where mateship and egalitarianism are extended to all." And the fourth speech comes from Isabelle Calder, aged 17. Isabelle writes, quote, "The government has pledged to create more respectful workplaces, although when watching parliamentary meetings there's some great disrespect among politicians. My name is Isabelle Calder and I am 17 years old, living in the Fenner electorate. I believe that in order to successfully achieve respectful workplaces in Australia, we need to focus on the role models everyone watches. MPs and senators are leaders, leaders for children, leaders for adults and workplaces, and leaders who drive the country we wish to become. Isabelle continues, "At my workplace we're expected to abide by a formal code of conduct, something Parliament is yet to implement. Respect everyone, do not talk over others, do not yell at others, be tolerant and inclusive, listen to other people's opinions, and if you feel the need, respectfully disagree and politely bring up your own point. These are common and, quite frankly, bare minimum expectations in the workplace. However, time after time I have watched politicians yell at each other, talk over each other and disrespect each other. The leaders' behaviour in our country ultimately sets a precedent, not only for how Australians can treat each other, but also how other countries can treat us. It is time for leaders to have consequences for their poor behaviour, as no one is above respect, especially those whose voices are already amplified." I want to thank Amelie, Elsie, Isabella and Isabelle for these extraordinary words, which confirm my optimistic view of the future of the country, especially for the role of young women in shaping a better Australia. We do need to shape a better tone for politics in this country. I pay tribute to the work that the member for Newcastle and her committee are doing in order to shape a code of conduct for this place, change the tone of politics and to ensure a more diverse parliament. It is one of the strengths of this government that, for the first time, a major party has a majority of women in our party room. In the Labor Party room there are 103 members, of whom 54 out of 103 are women. That makes a substantial difference to the role that women play in the debates in the Labor Party room.